Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to my channel. My name's Justin. I play guitar on songs in Nashville. Today, I want to talk about the difference between live playing and session playing and how I really think they're opposites of each other. And you shouldn't use the goals of one to figure out what your game plan is going to be for the other. Okay, so first, if this is your first time watching the channel, thanks for stopping by. I basically talk about guitar and music and how to be a better musician. Not just a better guitar player, but a better musician. I think those are different things. I also talk a lot about my job. I play guitar on songs in Nashville. Like I said, I record. I did tour for a long time. So I've had the perspective of a live guy trying to figure out what to do when presented with a song that was recorded and what parts to try to cobble together to have my live part for the entire song. And, you know, then when I started playing sessions, I quickly realized I don't need to try to do everything in one pass, right? The road gigs that I had, I guess a few of them there was another electric guitar player. When I played for Joe Nichols, there was another electric guy. Sarah Evans, there was another electric guy. With David Nail, I was the only guy. Gosh, I'm just kind of drawing a blank. I toured with a handful of different people for a while. I thought you had to do that. My goal in moving to Nashville was always to get to the point where I was just recording and not traveling. And so I thought you had to tour for a while to get to the point where you could record. But that's not true. All of my friends have totally different stories for how they got into the recording scene. But what I want to talk about here in this video is how I go from a session guy to figuring out how to play live. But I think the opposite, the converse of that, is maybe more applicable to most of you all. You probably play more live gigs than you do sessions. So when you get to do a session, what is the mindset shift? For me, my perspective is that playing guitar on sessions and playing guitar on a live gig are different in the way that the book differs from the movie, okay? These are different mediums for you to play music in, and your goal is different, and you're trying to tell the same story, right? Play the same song, but you have different devices at your disposal to do that, okay? So let's talk about going from sessions to live, and then we'll talk about the reverse, all right? So, you know, as a live guy, if you don't play on the records of the songs that you play live, then you probably have to learn all these parts, right? And sometimes there's up to like 5 guitar parts on a song, and that's fine. It's not like they need to get all of that on one part so that I can play it live. Like, again, different mediums. That's like saying they need to leave more of the story out in the books because we can't fit it into a 2.5-hour movie or whatever. That's kind of a long movie. On that front, I guess I'm still a little bit salty that Tom Bombadil was nowhere to be found in Peter Jackson's treatment of The Lord of the Rings. Fantastic films. Even better books. Far better books. I'm a book guy more than a movie guy, all right? But those movies are incredible. Still, I would have loved to have seen what he would have done with Tom Bombadil. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, going from sessions to live is a bit like trying to decide how to make a film out of a book plot, okay? In a book, you know, you've got chapters and chapters and chapters and pages and pages and pages. You have all this time to introduce and develop your characters, to not only have one plot, but have multiple subplots that all intertwine and kind of create this entire immersive world, you know? In a movie, it's very different. You have visual effects you can use to be immersive. You can't get really descriptive with the dialogue. You've kind of got to hint at certain things or show things. You want people to see and understand a story without just simply being told what's happening, right? So the way this relates to guitar playing, going from sessions to live, is if you're the only guitar player in the band and there's like 5 electric tracks, like say there's an intro, and I'm just going to kind of make something up. Say your intro is something like that, okay? And there's 2 big rhythm guitars. I've got charts hanging off my desk here. Say there's like 2 big rhythm guitars that are just banging out these chords, a big stereo thing. And then there's like a intro lick guitar going. So there's 3 parts in the intro alone. Well, what are you going to do? So for me, if I can't play, like if it's a big rock song, then I guess I would go. Like that thing doesn't work, right? Doing the plucky thing where you're playing the melody and kind of trying to play the bass notes as well. It's not like a solo guitar gig, right? If it's a rock band and the bass is driving, you can maybe just put some like delay on, little boost pedal. I've got a little delay from the Strymon timeline. I've turned on my Nordland odr-c, and you can play that line with some open strings ringing, and you know, if you're on a tour or in a big enough club, like get 2 combo amps. Run your delay pedal stereo out. Really try to fill bandwidth. The important thing is that you capture the energy in the part that you're doing, okay? So I would definitely, in an example like this, again, that I'm just making up off the top of my head, I would definitely have some open strings ringing out while I'm playing that line. Right? Into the verse. Clear out. Let the vocal happen. Maybe there's a bunch of really cool parts happening in the verse. That's not the concern as much as what's the energy? What is happening? Did they lay out in the front half of the verse and then they started playing these cool swirly things, or maybe some muted... What was the effect of those parts? The effect was probably that we are propelling ourselves into the chorus. We're probably building toward the end of the first verse. Do that, okay? It doesn't matter that you don't have 3 sets of hands and 3 guitars to play on the live gig. You can be the type of guitar player that uses dynamics and matching the energy of the rest of the band to help propel the song through its shape that's going to get the point across the best from the record, right? And, you know, a lot of bands, they use tracks to supplement so that it sounds as close to the record as possible while you're playing. Like back in the day, they used to just have giant bands and pay people. Now, it's kind of weird when you see 4 players and 1 singer, and there's like 3 background vocal tracks, and fiddle, and pedal steel, and rhythm guitar, and it's like, where are those people? They're just playing to tracks. That kind of bums me out. I know that's kind of the thing to do these days, but I digress. So I would say in the chorus, for the most part, you just want to be that big rock guy again, if the song is kind of driving and electric guitar is carrying it, right? So maybe you're playing the rhythm part of the big stereo guitars on the track, where you're back to that and maybe there's a lick every fourth bar where that lead guy from the intro comes back and goes. Well, you can kind of catch that in the tail end of your rhythm playing, if that's in the fourth bar or something. Generally, what most songs have that are well produced, they have moments throughout the track that help the track move forward. It's points of interest that make the listener lean in, right? There's some little hook that answers the vocal when the vocalist takes a breath. There's some little fill in the middle of the chorus that keeps us moving forward through the chorus. There's another fill of some kind at the end of the chorus that isn't as sticky-outy as maybe the one in the middle of the chorus, because we're getting ready to hear the intro hook again and the turnaround, right? Sticky-outy, yeah. So, you know, catching those things as they go by in your part that you're putting together makes a lot of sense. Like, you can play the downstroke thing and then catch the, I mean, if you wanted to do it in octaves, you could even go, oh. It's up to you. Which sounds more true to the spirit of the record, okay? It's not necessarily going to be exact, you know. Maybe that part was played on a telly and it's super high and was all verbed out and it was like, you know, something like this. With all this effect on it. Well, you're probably not going to jump on that effect. Actually, that might be cool. You might have that dialed up and ready to fire off and let it just sort of hang into the second verse and die out slowly, you know. Again, what captures the spirit of the track as it moves through the various sections of the song. So, oh, and also, I'm just making something up, like... I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's your hook. Maybe it's something you can do with those droning root notes as the chords move underneath. Okay, so let's talk about going the other direction. Say you are on a gig and you've been on this gig for a long time and your artist wants to throw you a bone and say, hey, let's hire this guitar player for the record. I know they don't have much experience, but they've been with me for a long time and we work out parts during sound check, or maybe they help develop songs that I'm writing while I'm on the road. This happens quite a bit in Nashville anyway. So let's get them on the session, right? And you're so thankful for the opportunity because you've never tracked with a live band in a full-on massive studio that some of your favorite records have been made in, right? So there's a little bit of nerves, there's a little bit of, oh no, what do I do? Well, again, these are different mediums, studio and live. What you have gotten used to is taking a bunch of parts off of the record and picking out the ones that make sense for a single cohesive part. Well, if while you're on the road with that artist, if you develop new songs that they haven't cut yet, and you have started from the point of crafting a single part to play because you're the only electric guitar player on the road, or one of two, Then when you go into the studio, you now need to parse that out and tease it out into different parts, okay? Say you've got a big droney intro lick. Make those two different parts, right? And I mean, it might still be cool to have the droning open string. There's all sorts of different ways you can play it. You could even just have a big... and then your hook part is doing the thing that you've been doing on the road. The point is, you can tease your one part out into the various parts that fill up a track the way that you have been listening to as you figure out your one part for the songs you play live that you didn't play on the record. Or maybe you did play on the record, but you still got to figure out how to make one guitar part work for all that stuff. You've got to go backwards, right? You've got to do the reverse. Don't go into the studio and try to get everything in one pass. Your intro hook, your muted part in the verse, your big chorus energy, your high delay part in the bridge, your solo, back to your outro part for the thing that you played in the intro and the turn. Like, a lot of that can be put in different tracks, you know? If it's a live session where you're tracking with the rest of the band, that's where these things kind of overlap, because you really are doing live takes with the band, right? I would say on the sessions that I do, if it's a master session, like for an artist who's going to put the song out to streaming, maybe to radio, they're going to tour on it or whatever, there may be one song per session. Sometimes there's two. Very rarely there's three. When you get to be doing three or more on a master, it's kind of like, it's kind of a bummer, a little bit. But sometimes producers bring songs that are already, you know, they've got so much stuff programmed out that you're just sort of adding layers, you know. If you're doing a demo session, man, sometimes you might have 5 or 6 songs in a 3-hour session. That's cooking. And that's how most of us cut our teeth, was getting in on demo sessions and figuring out how to put down parts fast, you know. Well, when you transition into playing more masters, there's a bit of a tension there, because the new guy gets his stuff done early and he's like, I'm going to stack, and then the drummer's like, man, I don't even have a drum part yet. Are you sure you don't want to keep playing to what I'm laying down? There's a bit of a tension there between drums and guitar and keys. And that's because, you know, back in the day, everybody would get one part, really get one part. You would have weeks of rehearsal for records. You'd get booked for a month on a record, and the first 3 days they're just getting drum sounds, and you're getting double scale to sit and hang out. I started way after that. So, you know, I've actually been told that by drummers, like, Stack, can I even get a effing drum part here? I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry, but this producer wants 3 or 4 tracks out of me in the time that they want you to have your pass solid. Like, I can play diamonds in the chorus or have an intro hook. You know, we're all playing to a click. We're playing to the drummer, but the drummer's playing to the click. And I can move on. It depends on the song. Sometimes it's that pop and that they want that many layers and that much interest and that many different things out of my chair that I do need to move to a second part before bass or drums sometimes. But anyway, back to going the opposite direction from live to session playing. At minimum, on pretty much every song I track with a live band, I'm thinking of two guys, stage left and stage right, who are, it's not one guy just playing cowboy chords or power chords and one guy doing all the interesting stuff. They're trading off. They're playing off of each other and the vocalist and drums and bass and keys, pedal steel if there's pedal steel. Everybody's listening to everybody else. So I'll take a first pass that already has a second pass in mind. And that first pass has a hook that works with how the vocal comes out of the chorus. And I can put that in the intro. The second pass is something that works with the first pass and actually sounds like human beings listening to each other. That's the key. So, you know, don't put all of your single note stuff or high stuff on one track. Mix it up, you know. Maybe if you've got time, maybe you've got stereo guitars banging out the big rock chords in the chorus, and then you have your guy right up the middle. Here's a box of rock. I don't know whatever lick you've got. Back to the Nordland. There's the Sean Tubbs Tilt Overdrive. It's the boost side. And then maybe you've got one track that's just, I'll do some like swells and thing. Maybe it's not delay ambience, maybe it's reverb. That was a original run first edition Boss DM2, the greatest delay pedal of all time, I think. I'm a Memory Man guy too, but holy cow, that's like the coolest sounding delay ever. It's just really, really, really short delay times. So hard to do like rhythmic stuff at slower tempos with it where the delay interacts with what you're playing. Cathedral Verb from the Maris. Maybe that's something you add to the bridge. New guy shows up for the bridge, right? The point is to create interest, move the song through its various sections. It's that sort of thing. Sometimes I'll use a pitch vibrato. This is the Mobius. That's pretty cool. When it gets low, that's a bit much, right? If you have other guitars that don't have that vibrato on it, that are ringing out in the same register. Could be cool. Big no-no. If there's a B3 player on the session, don't step on any kind of rotary or Leslie effect. It's just completely redundant, like 100% redundant. It's like playing slide when there's pedal steel on the session. Kind of don't need to have both, right? I mean, sometimes, very, 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 very rarely, there has been a request for some slide fills, even though pedal steel is like filling the entire chorus, every chorus, right? They'll ask for something more aggressive, slide kind of thing in the bridge or whatever, and you know, I don't know. It'd be something real simple. It's just something that like it's obvious that it's not trying to be slide. It's angrier, it's more aggressive, it's more distorted. But general rule of thumb, stay away from the Leslie rotary stuff if there's B3, and stay away from slide if there's pedal steel or dobro. You don't need two people sliding around on the same track generally. So again, I guess in summary, you know, most of you are probably used to playing one guitar part when you're playing songs live, that you hear multiple guitar parts on the record, so you have it in your mind how to sort of figure a thing out that captures the spirit of each section of the song. But if you get the chance to go the other direction, to take what you've worked up live and to go into the studio with it, it's time for you to think in the other direction too, okay? It's time for you to use some of the things, some of the devices that you would use on one track and make those each their own track, okay? Make the big, low rhythm guitars their own track, or stereo tracks. Kind of nice to pan them hard and to have two, you know, two big guitars doing the same thing. Put your solo on its own track. Put fills on whatever verse you're filling on its own track. Maybe your bridge part that's kind of weird and different, that gets on its own track, you know? So, but if you're tracking live, have your two left and right players on the stage, kind of the image of that in your mind, and they're trading off, playing off of each other and off of everybody else. And then, you know, sometimes if the song lends itself to a live band feel, I will take the solo on the way by one of those tracks. But I think every mix engineer ever in this town wants stereo rhythm guitars under the solo. They really do. So, you know, one of the things that gets like a really interesting and exciting solo out of me is for me to take it on my very first pass. And there's a bit of this like, oh no, I don't know what's going to happen, that translates for me. Well, in the event that I do that on the session, I'll often ask the engineer to say, and I'll say, hey, can you cut the solo out of that track and move it to its own? And I'll lay another guitar and we'll listen to that solo on the way by and then decide if we want a different option or something. But that, oh no, here's the first attempt, no rehearsal thing, it adds an energy for me that I really enjoy. And I think a lot of my clients dig it too. But I don't want to leave them hanging with just one rhythm guitar, leaving that solo as the only one. It just doesn't work for the mix engineer as well. So anyway, again, if you're new here, thanks for hanging out. I have been so slow at the beginning of 2025 getting to videos, and it's just because I'm filming a bunch of other stuff. I've got a bunch more courses coming out. My entire goal with this is to help guitar players be better musicians and to be the kinds of musicians who make every musical context they get into better. Like you can approach music as a musician, less as a guitar player, with your ears first and figure out how to make everybody around you sound better. How can the guitar part change to make this sound like $1 million, you know, or the most creative, cool thing? Or unique, right? So many songs have sort of the same style or the same genre. How do you help them stand on their own? Well, you start with your ears. So that's going to be a big theme of this coming year for me with this channel. And I hope you'll stick around and come along for the ride. I'll see you later.